can. And it's February 11th, 2021. And I am with Liz Muschett of lizmuschett.com, a Moonbeam team member. And she's going to talk about the new moon. It's in Aquarius. Hi, Liz.
Thank you, Sue. Well, happy new Chinese New Year's to everybody. It feels like we're finally at New Year's now because January 1st didn't feel like New Year's to me. It's the year of the metal ox, and it's also an Aquarius new moon at 23 degrees and 16 minutes of Aquarius. And I'm going to start with the Sabian symbol. And Mark Edmund Jones and Elsie Wheeler brought the Sabian symbols to light, basically. Elsie Wheeler was a medium, and at the time in 1926, she and Mark Edmund Jones were in San Diego, and they went to Balboa Park in San Diego there. It's a beautiful park.
Oh, yes.
And they had 3x5 cards, and he had written on the back of each one each degree of the zodiac. So Aries 1 through 30, Taurus 1 through 30, and on and
I
on
got
and
to be
on.
so
So they had
cool.
360 of them. And so that's how the Sabian symbols came to be. And they would just randomly pick one out of and shuffle them. And Elsie would hold it and she would say what came to her. And they did this supposedly all in one day, the 360 of them.
Pretty intense.
Yes, so it's pretty awesome. But anyway, the Sabian symbol for Aquarius 24 is turning away from things that have been important in the past and have since lost their value. There are valuable lessons in the letting go. Now seeing there is a more important mission to pursue, teaching deep wisdom from one's experience and passing knowledge and insight on to others. And with the experience of 2020, the pandemic and staying at home and all the changes that the whole world went through in 2020, to me, it's like, okay, how things were previous to the pandemic. And now we've had all these changes. Now, what's important to us? And I think that's changing on a lot of levels. Do I still want to do the same career? Do I want to move? Do I want to go back to school? How do I want my life? Do I want a bigger house, a smaller house? I mean, all kinds of ways. And I know earlier you told me that this reminded you of something.
It is because it really, some energy that I was uh, picking up on too is the items that we have. Do they reflect who I am now, or am I holding on to something that was? And like a museum piece almost, rather than does it give me joy and is it something I can aspire towards? It's always a matter of purging that out so that we can really release what the past shell has been. We're in such a transition. So this new moon is really augmenting that need to look at it very judiciously. I mean,
Can
maybe
you
from
show?
that elevated view, right, of Aquarius, rather than that impassioned moon that is so emotional and attached, that can say, no, this is really an obstacle in my pathway. I don't need to just remember. I've acquired this. I can go on now. I mean,
Good. Can
yeah.
you show the chart for
Oh,
the
yes.
Aquarius new moon, please?
Yes. And this
And
would be on the East Coast.
yes, we're going to do for Washington, D.C., I believe. And it's Eastern time, 2:05 p.m. And that's Eastern Standard Time, and 11:06 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if you're somewhere else, you'll have to look up the time zone for you. But I want to point out in the eighth house, we have a really large gathering of planets in Aquarius: Saturn, Jupiter, Venus, Mercury, Sun, and Moon, and also an asteroid, Pallas Athena. So we have this big energy in Aquarius, which comes up with innovative new ideas. And we've, as a world, we've had to come up with new ideas of how to deal with this pandemic. How do we deal with people in the hospital? Coming up with vaccines. There's been all kinds of how do we do this? And so they're trying different things, different medications, some work, some don't. So it really enforces this new moon of like, we're still going to get more new ideas. To me, it's like expanding on a big level. The last time that we had a big gathering in Aquarius was in February of 1962. So that's like 59 years ago. So it's really interesting that we're having it again, and how things might progress.
And it's an interesting 60, 59 years is like two Saturn returns. And checking the chart, it was back, I think, 3 or 6 degrees Saturn, meaning that there's some maturity level, there's like a resetting of calibrations of how we've obtained our goals. So looking back at 62, which preempted those, just disruptive 60s to have more civil rights for all, for whether they were for people or trees or in every way. It was such a liberation, and we're still working on that now on new levels. It's most
Yes.
fascinating.
And on the
Freedom.
new moon is a time
Mhm.
to manifest. And a lot of people like to, ask for their desires and wishes and hopes and do their manifesting on the new moon. Um, and that's good. I like to wait a little bit after the new moon, and especially with this one because the moon goes void, of course, immediately. So it's not making aspects to other planets until a little bit over 12 hours later. So to me, it's like you have 12 hours or even a whole day to work on your manifestations, your desires, wishes, and hopes and dreams, and write it all down. But of course, that's up to you of how you do your new moon manifestation. But I know last month on the new moon, I talked about that, sometimes you could do it, start working on it the day before and then the day of, and then you have a day after. So it was kind of like a process. But when the moon goes void, of course, this kind of enforces that idea so that you're putting your desires out there when action can be taking place. But even if you do them when the moon is void, of course, it's just going to create a delay, or it'll take some time to get the momentum going. So it's not a bad thing either way. So, but it's like, I think there might be adjustments to whatever it is, or like you might have part of the knowledge now or part of the idea, but then you'll learn more things, and it'll grow and become bigger, but it's going to
I
take a little bit of time.
I would think with Venus and Jupiter conjunct that this new moon is just going to breed great dreams of manifest of hopes or desires, abundant desires to sprout, and it's particularly and how to form them with the thinking, with all that energy focused on a very personal level, which is wonderful because we need, I would think, plenty of personal levels, and that want to actually improve the welfare of the others. So it's our us and our relationships too. So it's a pretty full package that those potential new dream aspirations can be.
Well, and all this energy is in the eighth house of the chart for Washington, D.C. So, there is going to be some releasing, transforming, letting go of old things. I mean, it kind of reinforces the saving symbol again. It's like in the eighth house, it's how do we change that or recycle it? My daughter moved back to the area, so I was able to clean out a lot of things, give her a few things, and I even got rid of things. It was like a motivation to help that process along. Yeah, and yes, the Jupiter Saturn or the Jupiter Venus conjunct is very helpful. So it's like, I think it might grow and expand to what you might even put ask for. And then also Saturn is square Uranus. Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius. Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius. So they kind of have this little friction happening there. It's like Saturn, I want to kind of keep it the old way, and Uranus is like, no, I want to do it a new way. Well, thanks for having me on, Sue.
Oh boy, it's always a pleasure, Liz. And we'll be here. I was trying to stop share so I can see you in Technicolor. There you are. Indeed. And I hope do subscribe, folks, and write your comments and check us with Moonbeam when we return. And New Year's, let's go. And it's the year of the ox. Time to work, time to onward, right?
Right. Have a good new moon, and we'll see you back in a couple weeks or on the Moonbeam team on a Saturday.
Goody. Okay.
Bye.